In this video, I'll be teaching you how to do hand hops. Firstly, I'll be teaching you how to jump on two hands, then teaching you how to progress to single hand hops. But before getting into progressions, I want to talk a little bit about the concept of hopping on your hands and how it works. Jumping on your hands is very similar to walking on your hands, but rather than moving one hand at a time, you move both together. As with walking, if you begin to fall in a certain direction, you simply move your hands to place them under your center of mass. You may have learned to walk on your hands before you could hold a static handstand, or perhaps know someone this is true of. Just as you don't have to be able to balance a static handstand before learning to walk on your hands, you don't have to be able to hold a static one arm before learning to hop on one hand. Personally, I find hopping on one hand easier than balancing a static one arm, and find students generally learn this skill faster. This is due to having the added balance mechanism available of being able to move the hand. However, there are other challenges unique to hopping, such as coordinating the integrated kicking and pushing pattern to get off the ground. Some find balancing easier than hopping, especially those who have spent significantly more time practicing it. Like most things, results are specific to the skill you practice, and although there is some transferability between these skills, learning one does not necessarily give you the other for free. If your goal is to do both, I encourage you to practice both skills concurrently. Before attempting to jump on two hands, there are some prerequisites that I recommend. You should be comfortable holding a static handstand as well as walking on your hands. I recommend that you're able to do both for at least 30 seconds and be comfortable walking in all directions before attempting hops. With hopping on two hands, there are two primary techniques. The first is the tuck technique, which involves bending at the hips and knees and extending them as you push with your arms to get off the ground. With all hop techniques, the arms should not bend much, if at all, and the force from the upper limbs should come from elevating the shoulders. As you hop, reposition your hands to balance. This is done by shifting them under your weight. When learning to hop, you don't need to completely leave the ground with each rep. You can simply reduce the weight on your hands enough so you can slide them along the floor to reposition them. As you become comfortable with this, you can generate more force to leave the ground. With the tuck hop, the legs should generate power predominantly from bending at the hips. This gives more power than just bending at the knees. The problem many encounter with this is that good shoulder flexion mobility is required to be able to do this efficiently. With poor shoulder flexion range, bending at the hips shifts the center of mass, and you must planche slightly to compensate. Due to the high strength demand in this position, hopping is very difficult. So before trying tuck hops, ensure you have a solid tuck handstand, and if shoulder mobility is an issue, the scissor hop may be a better option while you address this. Tuck hops involve flexing both hips, which will shift your weight in one direction and require compensation at the shoulders to maintain balance. Scissor hops involve flexing one hip and extending the other, so there's negligible change to the position of your center of mass. Consequently, you don't need to compensate with a change to your shoulder position and can manage just fine doing scissor hops without great shoulder mobility. This can be done with the legs straight or bent at the knees. Choose the technique you prefer. Start with a leg split and push with your arms as you kick your legs to switch them. With either technique, I encourage you to practice hopping to a beat or a fixed tempo to ensure the hops are evenly spaced. Initially start doing 1 or 2 hops, and over time increase the number as you work toward double digits. When you can comfortably do 10 hops on two hands consistently, you can move on to one hand hops. In addition to being able to do 10 hops, it's important you can do a tuck or a split one arm handstand momentarily. You don't have to be able to hold it for a long period. In contrast to the two arm handstand, a one arm tuck handstand doesn't require as much shoulder flexion mobility. This is because you're able to twist your body as you tuck to center your weight over your hand. As a result, you may be able to perform tuck hops on one hand more efficiently than on two hands. Whether performing a hop on two hands or one hand, the principles remain the same. Kick into the starting position and extend your legs as you push with your shoulder to lift off the ground. Move your hand under your center of mass, return to the starting position, and repeat for repetitions. I recommend starting with tuck and scissor hops on one hand, and when you're comfortable with these, progress to other variations, such as single leg hops, holding one leg, or thread hops. Thread hops involve holding the opposite foot with your free hand and moving it through the arch formed by your connected arm and leg. Each time the free leg passes under the arch, it extends on that side, allowing you to hop and get off the ground. Then it tucks as you land, allowing it to move under the arch to the other side, and repeats this process. Before trying the thread hop, I recommend you get comfortable with hops holding one foot. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, and if there's something else you'd like me to cover in a tutorial, let me know in the comments section below.